DYG.
Good morning.
Man, it sounds like a coach. Yeah. But he's so right, because we have some guys that we train every day, and these guys are great athletes. And some of you guys probably played against some of the guys I'm talking about, played with some of the guys, and they are not in school, don't have schools that still recruiting them or offering them scholarships just because of what he was just talking to you guys about. So it's very important to get it straight from the beginning. That way you don't have to worry about it at the end, okay? So he's very right about that. Also, some of you guys, I know it's about 3 or 4 guys in here that worked out with us before, and I know you guys, some others, this is the first time you've been here at SAT. My name is Mark Lyles. I'm the owner and president of Success Athletic Training. What we are, we're a sports performance company. We help athletes to, what we like to say, we want them to improve in their craft, be it football, basketball, whatever sport. So this is one facility, and I think some of you guys were over to our other facility across the street. We train a lot of adults and some smaller kids in that area. We got an outstanding, awesome program planned for you guys today. We're going to start off, we're going to have a speaker, which is a friend of mine, and he's a frat brother of Mr. Alexander's, dynamic, tremendous speaker, and this is going to be a treat for you guys just to listen to him today. After that, we're going to do some exercising, so I hope everybody is prepared. And, I see Harris, you got those shoes okay? Will you do some exercising with that? I'm not exercising. You're not? Okay, well we're going to try to get everybody to exercise afterwards, and then after that we're going to end the program where we're going to have like some nutritional tips and information, okay? We're going to start off with Mr. Sapp, Glenn Sapp. He's currently assistant police chief with Quincy Police Department. I've been knowing Mr. Sapp for probably about 25, 26 years. We go way back. And we started off in law enforcement together during that time. I think it was like 1988. Assistant Chief Sapp retired, get me right if I'm wrong, I think it was 2012 or 2011, retired from Tallahassee Police Department. He worked all the way up to the rank of a captain. He started off as a police, just a regular officer, worked himself up all the way to a captain, which is very hard. You don't have a lot of African Americans. I think we had 4 or 5 in the history of the police department at TPD. He retired from TPD, Tallahassee Police Department, and got the assistant police chief job at Quincy. He's currently in that capacity right now, and he's also an entrepreneur. He has a son, very similar to you guys, at University of Florida. I think he's majoring in microbiology, and he's going to be a doctor. So he knows what he's talking about, and he's going to have a lot of things to talk to you guys today that's going to be very similar to what his son's been through and he's going through currently right now. So I'm not going to take up too much more of your time. I want Mr. Sapp to come up and speak to you guys. Glenn Sapp, come on up. Assistant Police Chief. Oh, excuse me, and you see this right behind me? He likes to be called Afro-Popo. Okay? Come on, Mr. Glenn Sapp.
Figure it out for yourself, my lad. You've all that the greatest of men have had. 2 arms, 2 hands, 2 legs, 2 eyes, and a brain to use if you would be wise. With this equipment they all began, so start for the top and say, I can. Look them over, the wise and great. They take their food from a common plate. With similar knives and forks they use. With similar laces they tie their shoes. The world considers them brave and smart, but you've all they had when they made their start. You can triumph and come to skill. You can be great if you only will. You're well equipped for what fight you choose. You have legs and arms and a brain to use. And the man who has risen great deeds to do began his life with no more than you. You are the handicap you must face. You are the one who must choose your place. You must say where you want to go, how much you will study the truth to know. God has equipped you for life, but he lets you decide what you want to be. Courage must come from the soul within. The man must furnish the will to win. So figure it out for yourself, my lad. You've all that the great men have had. With your equipment, they all began. Get hold of yourself and say, I can. I want everybody to say that right now with enthusiasm. I can. Let's hear it.
I can.
Oh, you can do better than that. I sound louder than all y'all put together. I want you to say it a little bit louder, as if you're enthused about being here this morning for our Motivation Expo, okay? Because time is a valuable thing. Time, talents, and treasures. There's 1,000 places that I could be this morning. There's 1,000 places that you could be this morning. So let me hear you say it like you mean it one more time. I can.
I can.
That's a little bit better, not a whole lot. I looked at your website, and it says that the distinguished young gentleman is the premier youth leadership organization in America. I know this young man right here because he and I used to go to church together. And I know some of you. I know your fathers and your moms. They've been in Tallahassee about 30-something years. Y'all know what premier means? Do you know what the word premier means? The word premier means the best. That means at the highest level. That means the top 5%. That's what premier means. Raise your hand if you can recite the DYG creed without reading off a piece of paper. A long time ago, I was a Boy Scout. You got to be a child to be a Boy Scout. The Boy Scouts have what they call the Scout Law. Anybody here ever been a Boy Scout? No? It's a good program. It's kind of corny. We think it's a program for nerds. But they say that Boy Scouts are trustworthy, loyal, helpful, friendly, courteous, kind, obedient, cheerful, thrifty, brave, clean, and reverent. Those words describe men and women who are premier people. I don't know how serious y'all are about this DYG program. And I say that simply because a creed. See, I was in the Army. I've done a lot of things in my life. I was in the Army. I served during the war. I got flown over to the Middle East in 1991. Saw some real sad things in the Persian Gulf. In the Army, we have something called the warrior ethos, E-T-H-O-S. And an ethos is like a creed. If you say something is your creed, that means down to my bones, this is what I believe. Mr. Lyles told me to bring it this morning. So y'all seen me doing this swag and listening to the music and Miguel and all that. All that's good. I like Miguel. That's why he got a hot song. But let me tell you something. Don't ever forget this. There's a time and a place for all things. And now we get down to business. Because life is serious. What type of men y'all are going to become is serious. But it's about choices. It's about choices. If you're serious about DYG, you're going to learn that creed. And enough said on that. Let me tell you a little bit about myself. Mr. Lyles told you a few things, that I'm the assistant police chief over in Quincy, that I worked for the Tallahassee Police Department for about 25 years. I worked up to be a captain. You know, I ran task force, and worked bank robbers and murderers and rapists and thieves and pimps and prostitutes and drug fiends and all that. That's all true, but none of that's that important to me. None of that's that important to me. Let me tell you what's important to me. Let me tell you a little bit about my life story. Real quick, because it ain't about me today, it's about you. And I'm only telling you this so maybe some of you can relate. I don't know, maybe you can't. But if you can relate, just keep looking forward. You don't have to look at anybody high-fiving. When I was a small child, about 3 years old, my mother and my father had 6 children, 4 boys and 2 girls. My father was a real handsome, tall gentleman, about 6'4", about my complexion, big afro. Nice looking guy. But my father became an alcoholic. And my father became very abusive and became abusive to my mother. Physically abusive, domestic violence. Maybe none of y'all can relate to any of that. But if you can, just keep looking forward. Don't high-five anybody. My mom had to take the 6 children and leave my father because of his alcohol problem and him being abusive. I was 3 years old. From the time I was 3 years old to the time I was 21, I didn't see my father again. I'm talking about my biological father, the man that, with my mom and God, produced me physically. I didn't see him again until I was 21. At the age of 21, my family got a phone call from one of my father's sisters who said that my father was very, very sick and in the hospital. I didn't even know my father. I didn't know who the man was. But still, he was my biological father. She said if we wanted to see him alive before he died, we needed to go to the hospital. So myself and about 3 other siblings of mine, we got together and we drove up to Augusta, Georgia. That's where he was at, in Augusta, Georgia. And we got to the hospital real early in the morning. And there was somebody that met us at the hospital, and they led us to his hospital room. And my father was no longer this real tall, strong, handsome looking man that I couldn't even remember at 3. My father was laying on a hospital bed and he was asleep. His face was swollen due to blood and water retention that couldn't drain from his head due to a tumor. They woke him up and his head was about as big around as a basketball because it was just that swole. He had a tumor in his neck. The blood couldn't come back down from his brain and it caused the fluids, blood and water to retain in his head. So they woke him up and he looked at us and he didn't say anything, but he knew who we were. Because even if you didn't see one of your brothers or sisters for 20 years, if you ran into them again, wouldn't you know who they are? If you didn't see your mom for 20 years, but you went to the mall somewhere and you bumped into your mom, would you know who your mom is? No matter what, wouldn't you? Because I know his mom. I know he loved his mom. I know he would know who his mom is. So my dad looked up and we had a long talk and we stayed and visited with him for about 30 minutes. And guys, all the anger and frustration and hate and bitterness that I had had when I was your age for my dad because of what he didn't do. He didn't pay any child support. He didn't call me. He didn't check up on me. He didn't ask me how I was doing in school. He didn't encourage me. All of that stuff. I just left it right there in the hospital room. But did I tell you guys that he was in a prison? Did I say that? I left that part out. My dad was in a penitentiary in the Augusta Correctional Institute. That's a prison. Serving time. We left that hospital in that prison after about a 30-minute visit. And about 2 weeks later, my dad died. In prison. Alone. The next 2 times that I saw him the next time was at his funeral. So basically, I can remember seeing my dad about 4 times in my life, about twice, because I can't remember when I was younger than 1, 2, and 3. I can't remember that far back. So I remember seeing him about 4 times in my life, about twice when I was a child, and then at the hospital in the prison when he was dying, and then at his funeral when he was dead. But let me tell you how good God is. God put men in my life and women in my life like Mr. Clutch, like Mr. Alexander, like Mr. Williams. Everywhere I turned, there were positive role models and men who, for whatever reason, saw something in me that they developed. But it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy. And nothing worthwhile ever is easy. But when I left that prison that day, I made myself a promise. I made this promise. I said that if I ever had children, I simply said I would do my very best to be a better father to my children than my father had been to me. I did have children. I've been married for this month. I'll be married 27 years to my wife, Linda. We have 3 children. We have 2 boys and a girl. And real quick, we got a lot of stuff to cover. The oldest graduated from Lincoln in 2000. He joined the United States Marine Corps after that. He served 4 years in the Marine Corps active duty, did 2 tours in Iraq during the war, got out of the Marine Corps, went to college, got his bachelor's degree, lives in Atlanta, is doing good. The middle child is a daughter, went to FAMU. She graduated from Childs in 2004, went to FAMU, got a bachelor's degree in education, graduated, working, doing good. The youngest is my youngest son that Mr. Alexander knows, and maybe when he comes back to Tallahassee, maybe we can have him, Mr. Alexander, come and talk to the young men, because he's obviously close to your age, y'all can relate to him. But the youngest was probably the smartest person in our family. But just, some people just have a gift, whether it's athletic, being an artist, or academic. And he just had an academic gift, especially for numbers and math, and STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math type subjects. Was just real smart, graduated from Childs in '09. He was his class president at Lawton Childs High School. Was in Leadership Tallahassee, Youth Leadership Tallahassee, some other programs here. But he went to the University of Florida, where Mr. Lyles told you he majored in microbiology. He's been on the dean's list. I've got more letters from UF, dean's list certificates. I just got them at home, you know, I got them in a file drawer. And he's already been accepted into University of Florida's medical school. And to get into medical school, number one, you got to have an outstanding GPA. He's got about a 3.7 GPA, majoring in microbiology. And so guys, that's all different types of biology and chemistry, and organic chemistry, and physics, and calculus. And I'm just going to tell you, that's just all the big brain stuff. But every one of you can do it. You can do it. But you got to believe you can do it. Some of you are not good at math. You know why? Because you don't ever do any math. Some of you are not good at science. You know why? You don't never take a science book home and study science. You know why? Because you're at home texting all freaking night long on that cell phone, sending text messages. You're listening to music. Too much. Time and a place for everything. You have got to develop the discipline to make a schedule and stick to it, because in life, nobody cares about you like you and your mama. But when you leave mom and them house, very few people out in the real world care about you. They could care whether you wind up across Capitol Circle at the federal prison over here, or whether you wind up in a graveyard, or whether you wind up in Frenchtown on Skid Row, a crack fiend, a criminal. They don't care about you like your mama. That's why DYG is trying to plant seeds in you guys, the same seeds that I planted in my children. Now maybe your upbringing, maybe the lives y'all have with your moms and dads is a lot better, and I hope it is a lot better than when I came up on welfare over in Quincy, where I used to work in the tobacco fields for 37 cents an hour. 37 cents an hour. That's how much we got paid. But it's all good, because I had a dream. And nothing was going to deter me from my dream. And you know what? My son is the product of that dream that I had. But I had to sacrifice. My mom nor my dad had a high school diploma. I was the first person in my family to get a college degree. But look, in one generation, you see how you could change your entire family history in one generation. My dad didn't have a high school diploma. He fell into a life of crime, and he died serving time in a prison. And then me, his son, I wanted a different life for me and my family. So I took my education serious. I did what I had to do. I joined the Army to get more scholarship money, to work my way through college. And I made it, and God blessed me. Because God likes to see young men trying to do the right thing. If you try to do the right thing, guess what? Like the genie, people will appear who will help you. But you got to be serious about it. Let me tell you a story. Y'all have heard this story before. How many of y'all heard of a guy y'all probably seen him named E.T.? Very popular motivational speaker on YouTube. Raise your hand if you've seen E.T. Wow. Wow. Well, good. You got something to go research now. You got two things you got to do already. You got to learn the creed, number one. And then you got to go research who E.T. is on YouTube. There's a story about a young man that was 18 years old. He was a rapper. Lived in New York City. And he was real good. But he just felt like he needed to find a guru. He needed to find someone that had mastered the music business to help take his game to the next level.